eat. And I remember when I was in university, when you went out for a date, there was Mr. Green Jeans. I think it was the one place that we used to go to. There was really nothing else. And then there was like the hotels. And now we've got this like, vibrant culture, food culture, sports teams, like, the energy, entertainment, all that sort of stuff. Like the energy here is remarkable. And where you see in my mind, where you see this this thing developing is, I'm not going to say mega cities, because mega to me is such an ugly word, but I call it, and when I was at Trev, I used to call it the alpha cities, right? Alpha cities of the world. So these are cities that are kind of almost countries in themselves. Toronto, London, Paris, New York, San Francisco. I mean, okay, fine, we're not on the same level as Paris, we don't have the same history, but as far as an economic center, an economic entity, this is where we're kind of revving up, right? So we are approaching that sort of, I would call it, alpha city status across the global field. So that kind of gives you a sense of why I think Toronto is going to explode over the next 10 years. And you already see it happening in other parts of the province. And we're also, like Vancouver, we have policy mountains on one side. They have real mountains. We have policy mountains. We call it the Green Belt. They have the ocean on one side. We have Lake Ontario. So we're all very much in a similar city. You can sort of see why the two of our cities are very comparable in how the real estate has gone. But we have a real, I'm going to say, very interesting dilemma, and that is that certainly if you own a house in the city, you've established your footprint and you're not going anywhere, like you're going to stay here. But for people who are new to the city, they have to struggle, and the market just gets out of control so quickly, and then the government steps in, and of course, well, what happens after that, right? Things start to slow down. It's a mess. It's a mess, and then we have bad agents making worse decisions, and we saw that in the CBC marketplace report, and we see it you hear it in the news where a landlord doubles somebody's rent, and then the government jumps in and makes bad decisions that just make the market worse. So we're living in some bad decisions right now, and I think that may change. If you look what happened in Vancouver, the market slowed way down. Then everyone kind of realized, well, okay, maybe it's not that bad, and the market revved up again. And then they brought in another level or they're about to bring in some more fixes into the system. And AREA's really worked hard to try and figure out how we can sort of counter that. Double ending was a classic example of AREA really working the system, and how Tim went to the province and got to be able to have a sit-down meeting with Wynn and say, you can't do this, right? Here's the reason why. And so we kind of worked our way out of that. So we've got some challenges, and in and around all of that, we've also seen our agent population swell from 12, 13,000, whatever, up to 50. I think we're almost at 55,000 if you include some of the people that have their licenses that don't actually practice. And that in itself has created its own problems. What it's done is it has eroded the work that good realtors do. And the truth is that you only need about 10,000 realtors out there on the streets, but we have 50,000. And because of the changes that the government put in place, and because the market slowed down, you've got now 50,000 agents. Instead of trying to do an average of 115,000 deals, they're now trying to do 90-some-odd thousand deals. And that number will go down again, for sure. So there's a huge imbalance, and that creates a lot of pressure. So what we saw before was, the consumer is so desperate to try and find property that they were skipping out or doing whatever it takes to get to the selling agent, to try and do a deal with the selling agent. And then of course that just corrupts, right? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so now that's changed a little bit. And people maybe are recognizing the value of having a realtor working for them, and I know that you guys are very good at talking about your value, just like I have to tell my agents how we sort of show our value out there. And as a realtor, your pressure is on because you've got other people who will do what you do for less. They may not do anything, they may not do different, and they might be happy just to take $1,000 at the end of the deal and not do any work for it. But that's one of the challenges that we have to overcome. And in my sense, what I've seen over the last little while is a really interesting phenomenon in a place where we've got tons of agents. The rents are expensive, staffing is expensive, equipment is expensive, office furniture, everything's expensive, and you're trying to grow your business, and you're offering all these agents these crazy deals to try and get them to come and join you. So your profit's going down, your costs are going up, and that margin becomes so incredibly slim that I kind of wonder whether or not brokerages are going to be long for this world. I mean, I certainly hope mine is, and I hope yours is. But here's the pressure, right? And I talked a little bit about it when I started at Darrell Kent, which is no longer around. But that was in '89 when I would say about 6 or 8 months after I started. They used to have this great board. I don't know if you guys have them. They had this board where they put little dots on it. If you got a listing, you got a dot, and if you did a sale or a rental, you got a dot. And my second or third month there, I was not on the lead. I was on the board. I wasn't the leader because David Rose, I don't know if you remember David Rose, he was like that top guy. But I was second to David Rose, and I remember the manager calling me and said, dude, you're like number 2 on the board. And then about 6 months later, the market completely tanked, and everybody, it was a disaster for the realtors on the street. I remember a girl had this cartoon on her desk, and it said, "Please God, I hope there will be another boom. This time I promise not to piss it all away." We got to think about that, right? And if you haven't lived through a recession, especially a real estate recession, you don't know how bad it is. It's horrible. So we're now at 50,000 agents. You're coming into an industry where it's like you're bringing a knife to a gunfight. When you're going on those listings, because there will be somebody who will say, "I will do whatever you do, but for less, because I'm hungrier, or I need the money, or I got families to support." And so I think what's going to happen is that we're going to see some brokerages down the road. We're going to start to see them fail because they just can't compete. The margins are getting thinner and thinner and thinner. And back in my day, Darrell Kent is gone, Terry Martell is gone, Prudential is gone, and there's a whole bunch of others that are sort of on their way out, maybe on life support. And I think we'll see, at least in the next 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised if we lost 6 to 10 good-sized brokerages. So that's going to create a little bit of extra opportunity, I think, for guys like me, guys like Amy, because we're doing something different in the marketplace, and I think that should be applauded. That should be we should be all looking up to what we're doing. So you guys are choosing the right thing. And honestly, if that's your value proposition, I'll do less for I'll do more for less, or I'll do less for less. I don't know. And maybe in this market it doesn't really matter because stuff is going to sell quickly. So do I really need a video? Do I really need floor plans? Do I need all that crap? I don't really need it. Throw it on MLS and call it a day, right? And we'll just sit back and let it all happen. But as you know, that's not the case. And when you do videos and we do that little bit extra, you feel good about yourself, obviously, and you're working on the fact that business is going to bring you more business because the people had a great experience, right? And they're going to say, "My God, you got to use the North Group because that was a great experience." And the truth is, everyone knows, the more work you do, the more effort you put into it, the more money you get for the client, and it's well offsets the extra cost. So we've got we have some challenges, and I don't know exactly who's going to win. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we've got these slimming margins. We have 8 brokerages that are going to really struggle. You've got government intervention that's going to basically screw with us. You've got affordability issues in the city that are creating a kind of a hole at the bottom. People who are the service workers of the city have to now commute in because they can't afford to live here. So these are all the kind of I would call them these hidden problems that we all face. We've also had really low interest rates, which have helped people get into houses probably maybe that they couldn't afford. Maybe the bank trying to slow things down. So it seems like every day we get hit with another